Today we're answering all of your medical questions, and our next one is a home video from Sasha's.
Hi, doctors. So, letting you in on a big secret. I just turned the big 3-0, but I am nowhere near ready to start having kids. But that biological clock does tick, and with age it can affect fertility. So, I need your help. How soon should I start considering the possibility of freezing my eggs?
OB-GYN Dr. Aliabadi is here to answer Sasha's question. And Doc here recently made headlines when she delivered Kylie Jenner's baby girl, Stormy.
Yeah.
Which I know is why you went into this profession, because you love bringing beautiful babies into this world. And that really does get to Sasha's question, because Sasha's here and a lot of women are curious when they should consider freezing their eggs, if at all.
Most doctors recommend freezing eggs by age 35. In my practice, I start the discussions at age 28 to 30, just to get them used to the idea. But by 32, I definitely recommend freezing eggs. It's important to know that we're born with about 2 million eggs, and by puberty, we have about 400,000 left. By end of our 30s, that number declines to 27,000. And at the onset of menopause, we have about 1,000 eggs left. So as we age, not only the quantity of our egg goes down, but also the quality gets affected. So the earlier you freeze, the better it is. For example, if a 30-year-old requires 1 cycle of egg freezing, that same patient by age 40 might require multiple sessions. You know, it's very expensive. It costs about $10,000 per cycle. Oh. So imagine if you're 40 and you have to go through 3-4 cycles, that's $40,000 just freezing it.
But in fairness, if you're 28, 29, 30, to hear that $10,000, obviously this is not paid for by most insurers. It's very expensive. And so if you're someone out there and you're thinking about this, and okay, cost is obviously an issue, is this just the earlier you have the discussion, the earlier you can plan for the optimal time for you?
I think that's why having the discussion early on is so great, because a lot of women, they may not be in a relationship as they get older. Maybe they're going to get in a panic state. So at least they understand the options, they understand the costs, so they can plan ahead for that if necessary.
Right. Isn't it that it's the same cost whenever you do it, right? So wouldn't it be better to do it early and have more viable eggs that are more likely to be successful later on if you're going to end up doing it?
It's true, it's correct, except that what he mentioned is at 30, it's very difficult for people to spend $10,000 even for 1 cycle. Maybe it's easier for a 40-year-old to pay for 3 cycles. So it's very dependent. Every individual is different. There's some patients that are high risk, patients with endometriosis, patients with family history of premature ovarian failure. Some women have chromosomal abnormalities that predisposes them to premature ovarian failure. So these patients, you have to start the discussion even earlier. I have a 25-year-old in my practice freezing her eggs right now. There are blood tests available that you can check your fertility. There's no guarantees, but there's a blood test you can do to just check and see what your reserve looks like at certain age. But it's good to start to think about it by age 30, especially if you don't have a partner. Obviously, if you're married, you have a cushion and you really don't need to spend that kind of money. But if you're approaching 32 and you don't have a partner, then I would definitely recommend it.
Before we go to break, I'm curious, is there downward pressure in the cost of freezing eggs? Because it's been expensive, it's still expensive, and out of reach for a lot of people.
And Doc, there are other costs too. We're talking about taking the eggs. You've got to store the eggs,
right.
And then when it's time to hatch those eggs, you've got to thaw them, then you have to pay for IVF.
So is the thawing fee $5,000 on average?
$5,000, and it costs about $1,500 for 5 years to store it. But you have to understand, majority of these young patients never use these eggs. It's like an insurance policy.
So if you can afford it and that's a non-issue, you're really saying, luxury. Look, if you're thinking about it, maybe the sooner the better. So I think this always gets back to having a personal relationship with your physician. The earlier you have a conversation about anything in medicine, the better. That way you're always prepared.
Yep.
And Sasha, we certainly wish you nothing but the best in your
Thank
future.
you.
Thank you for asking. Dr. Aliabadi, keep up the great work.